following is a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports.
Welcome, my children. It's Halloween week. I'm going with I'm trying to be scary here, but that was probably scary for a different reason. But anyway, welcome, folks, to another episode of the NFL Network. Hey, I'm trying to find some enjoyment because it has not been a fun couple of weeks, to say the least, around here. And yeah, it's it's one of those weeks, everybody. And welcome, everybody, to what we usually do here on this Tuesday night, and that is, of course, the NFL Network. We're going to get to the power rankings, and we're also going to predict Week 9 of the NFL season. And we have now officially hit the bookmarking of the halfway mark of the NFL season. And needless to say, we are already starting to see the tides that are changing for many teams that are leading the divisions right now. Some of them have leads being evaporated. Some of them have seen leads grow. One team in particular has had one lead continuously stay put for much of the season, which probably means that they're on the brink of a downfall coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. But we will touch on all of those in just a little bit. But of course, before we do any of that, it is that important time of the year in the world of the National Football League, and that is the trade deadline. It's coming up very, very soon. I think it's coming up next Tuesday, I believe, is when it's actually happening. That is indeed correct. November the 4th is when the trade deadline takes place. And we are already starting to see a couple of notable trades in particular. Nothing too spectacular just yet, but there are a couple that did kind of take me by surprise and saying, wow, they are really doing this. And one of them in particular is a team that is leading very well in the division right now, but now is cutting away some of their players in general while they're red hot. But let's talk about some of the trades that we have currently right now. It started on yesterday when the Los Angeles Rams officially got the trade from the Tennessee Titans to pick up Roger McCreary, the cornerback for the Tennessee Titans, and they got the Tennessee Titans got a 2026 conditional 5th round draft pick in exchange for Roger McCreary and a conditional 6th round draft pick. But the team that really has made a lot of big news today was the New England Patriots, and it wasn't because of people that they got, it was because of people that they got rid of. So it started off early in the day when we found out that they had made a trade with the San Francisco 49ers for the Niners to acquire the rights to defensive end Keion White, as well as a 2027 6th-round draft pick. And the New England Patriots also received a 2027 6th-round draft pick in the process as well. But the most recent trade is that the Patriots have traded with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers get safety Kyle Dugger, who had just signed I believe a 4-year extension last year, and they're getting rid of him this year. And the Steelers got Kyle Dugger, and they also got a 7th-round draft pick in the trade. New England got a 2026 6th-round draft pick. So far, a couple of interesting trades, specifically the fact that New England, who is leading the division right now, it's 6-2. I mean, they're red hot right now, and they're making these trades to get rid of players. I mean, that's pretty significant overall. I mean, that's really something that's really been impressive thus far. In the beginning of what is set to be probably a very, very busy week overall. I mean, this is just the beginning here, and I would not be shocked at all if the Pittsburgh Steelers get to making some trades of their own to acquire some more players, along with some other trades in particular. We'll find out by this time next week. We'll find out some certain things, like specifically, will somebody like an A.J. Brown be traded away by the Philadelphia Eagles? I know the Eagles are saying, no, we're not going to do that, but, I mean, you never know. He has been very much underused the last couple of weeks in general, and the Eagles might be convinced to try to contend for another Super Bowl title without him. I mean, that could easily happen here, but, only time will tell. And like I said, we're only about a week away here, and by the time most of you will hear this tomorrow morning, we'll probably get some more trade news coming out pretty soon, but, But yeah, those are a couple of the trades that have happened right now. Surely going to be a very, very busy week, and we will cover all these trades next week on the NFL Network. So stay tuned for that. But with all that said, let's get to this week's power rankings. So once again, we have some significant changes, most of it the way all across the board here in the power rankings. But in the terms of the top two spots and the top spot 5 in general, two teams are still hanging in there, and then there are some teams back in the top 5 for the first time in a long time. But yeah, let's welcome in a new member to the top 5 here, and number 5, and that is the aforementioned New England Patriots, who put on a really good show against the Cleveland Browns, even despite the best efforts of Myles Garrett on his 5-sack day. New England just somehow found a way to continue to beat these teams easily, and like I said, it's like we've been saying before, man. The Patriots are back. The Patriots are back, and that is bad news for everybody in the AFC. And not only the Patriots back, but the Kansas City Chiefs are back, even though they are they're just out of the top 5 this week at number 7. New England, I have them at number 5, despite the efforts of Cleveland, of Myles Garrett overall. I mean, New England still found a way to beat them pretty convincingly, so that's why they're pretty much at number 5. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers go into Pittsburgh, go into the home of Aaron Rodgers. Everyone's expecting a similar matchup to 2009 when Brett Favre went back to Lambeau to face the Packers when he was with the Vikings. And yeah, we didn't get that here. It started promisingly for the Steelers, but then Green Bay just dominated in the second half, and the Steelers just had no answers whatsoever. I mean, give the Packers their credit. They came into a hostile territory, and they brought their fans along with them, because there were a lot of Packers fans in that stadium. Not just from watching it on television, but the fact that I was at the Pitt game the day before, and I already started seeing Packer jerseys all over the place, and I thought to myself, this isn't going to end well, is it? And sure enough, for the Steelers, it didn't end well. But for the Packers, it continues their dominance over everybody else, and it's pretty much a good time for the Packers right now. They are currently sitting very comfortably at, I believe, what was it, 60? I keep thinking it's 5-1-1, or it's 5-1-1, right? Yeah, it's 5-1-1 because they were on the bye week, and I said it on the NFL net on the Review Network Live Sunday Night NFL Rewatch that the Packers actually lead the conference right now. Even though Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, they have 6 wins each, but it's Green Bay who has that lead right now. If you look at the conference title right now, they currently have a lead because their winning percentage is about 0.36 better than the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's really impressive overall, especially when you consider they've only had one divisional win so far. They've only played one divisional game, but they've had 3 conference wins and that one tie against the Cowboys, which probably is making the difference right now. And hey, it's an easy schedule for them coming up next because they got Carolina coming up, and then the next big one is that Monday night game against Philadelphia, which is in Lambeau Field, which should be a very, very intriguing matchup to say the least. And then you follow it up with going to New York, which the New York Giants really are not that impressive of a football team, neither is the Minnesota Vikings. This is a team that possibly, at the very least, could be 8-2-1 by the time we get to that Thanksgiving matchup against the Detroit Lions. That'll be a tough one. And going into Ford Field on Thanksgiving Day, yeah, the Packers beat them very well in week 1, but the Lions are still playing tough football overall. We'll touch on the Lions in just a little bit here, but it could be very interesting for the Green Bay Packers coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. They could be sitting very comfortably at 8-2-1 before that Thanksgiving game takes place. Speaking of the teams that are still hanging in there, number 3 is the Buffalo Bills, who last time we saw them were on a desperate 2-game losing streak. They are losing key members of their team. They were losing key members on defense one by one, and they were just getting their butts whooped by New England and Atlanta of all teams. Then they came out of the bye week, and then they were lucky enough to face the Carolina Panthers team that wasn't starting a hot Bryce Young. And they blew the doors off of them 40-9 for their second best performance overall offensively this season, and in the nick of time too, because guess who comes to town in Buffalo next week? Kansas City. And then that leads to a very intriguing couple of weeks for the Buffalo Bills, because they've got some pretty tough competition. Because after Kansas City, okay, Miami's maybe not tough competition, but they're getting better. They're getting better. I'll say that. But you got Tampa Bay, and then that Thursday night game against Houston. I mean, and of course at Pittsburgh. I mean, by the end of the month, there's a possibility that they can reel off a couple of solid wins overall. I mean, let's see, 6-2, 6-3, 6-2, 7-2, 8. Yeah, they could be 10-2 by the time the month of November comes to an end. I mean, it's looking pretty solid overall for them at this point, and maybe even more so because after the Steelers game, they got the Cincinnati Bengals, so they could be 11-2 by the start of December at this point if they win these next couple of games. But it'll all start with that big battle against Kansas City this week, and we'll touch on that in the predictions coming up. Speaking of going back to the NFC North, let's talk about the Detroit Lions, who hang in there at the number 2 spot despite not playing this week in general. I could have moved a couple of teams up there, but I mean, the Detroit Lions are still one of the best teams in football right now, even though they are still struggling with a lot of their problems coming on, just keeping everybody from getting injured and all that. I mean, they had a big win against Tampa Bay on Monday night last week. And, they're getting ready for a big competition, for a big battle this week with the Minnesota Vikings, with J.J. McCarthy coming back into the lineup. And the outlook is looking good for the Detroit Lions in general here, because you got the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to be playing in Detroit. Then you got to go to Washington without Jaden Daniels. Their toughest game coming up is in Philadelphia, and that'll be a game we'll cover here on the Reviewing Network Live Sunday Night NFL Rewatch. And then you got the Giants after that. So, judging by what I think might happen here, we could see the Lions possibly at maybe 7-2 before the Washington. It's before Philadelphia. They might lose that game there, so that would put them at 7-3. And then the Giants at 8, and then you're going up against the Giants, so that should be an 8-3 start for them. And then that Thanksgiving matchup will be critical for both of these teams. You'll have two red-hot teams, the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, meeting with the Lions at 8-3 and the Lions and the Packers at maybe, what do I have them at? 8? What am I having at that point? This is the problem of doing this. This is the problem of doing this on the cuff here. Let's see, 6-1-1. 7-1, 8-1, possibly 9-1-1 Green Bay meeting 8-3 Detroit, because I think Green Bay can win these next couple of games. I think Philadelphia will be their toughest matchup next, but the possibility is there for them to maybe go on a win streak at this point, because they're doing it right now ever since coming off the bye week and after that Cowboys tie. So anything's possible with them. But let's continue on with the number 1 team once again for the second week in a row, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. Now, granted, this week their competition was against the Tennessee Titans, so not really much of a shocker there. But it's the fact that the Colts just keep moving on here. I mean, and their schedule overall. I mean, there's a possibility they can get to 9-1 at the bye week. I mean, the schedule is not looking too hard for them before that bye week in the middle of November. And then you've got the big stretch coming up in December. It's between the 23rd of November and the final game of the season on January 3rd or 4th. Because you got Kansas City, you got to go to Arrowhead and do that. And Kansas City's red hot right now as well. The Texans, who the last couple of weeks they've gotten better than the way they started. Then they got Jacksonville twice. The big thing is, of course, the big one's December 7th, because Indianapolis hasn't won at Jacksonville in a long time. So does that streak break this time around with Daniel Jones or what? And then you go to Seattle, and then you have San Francisco, and then Jacksonville again, and at Houston. So, I mean, there's a good chance that the Colts could lock up the AFC South before the month of November is even over with. But again, it will all depend on can you finish the month strong, and can you beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City? Can you beat the Houston Texans? That's the toughest thing about these next couple of weeks overall. That's going to really decide the fate of how good the Colts can be down the road here. And, judging by the team that they're going to play next, I think their first test of that will be very easy to take on. But, again, we will touch on that in a little bit here as we get to the predictions. But before we get to that particular game, let's go ahead and get to the NFL Week 9 predictions. And we start, of course, on Thursday night. So in terms of my predictions this week, it's not bad. I mean, I got 8 out of 13, which is not the greatest, 61.5%, but it is actually my second best overall predictions of the season after week 4. So yeah, I'm taking as many little victories as I can here. So will that change here with week number 9? Let's see if we can make this a good week for us. We're starting off with a very intriguing matchup here. That one that really started promising in the offseason, then kind of faded out as the season went along. But in the last couple of weeks, this has gotten much more intriguing than you could possibly imagine. We've got the Miami Dolphins hosting the Baltimore Ravens. The Dolphins shocking everybody, including myself, by getting a very convincing win over the Atlanta Falcons. And yeah, I know they had Kirk Cousins as the starting QB for that game. But I thought maybe Kirk Cousins could have, I thought Kirk Cousins could have at least helped the team get a win in that matchup there. But once again, the Falcons playing in that inconsistent mood here. Like, they don't even pretend that, they pretend like Bijan Robinson doesn't exist because they're barely using him. They're barely using Drake London. They're barely using Kyle Pitts. It's just like, why the hell do you even have these guys if you're not going to use them? And for Kirk Cousins to have a game where, okay, the starting quarterback is out. You've been sitting on the bench all season long. Here's your chance to prove to everybody that you can still be a starting QB in the NFL. I mean, he's making such a big deal of the trade deadline that he wants to go to a quarterback needy team that is willing to give him a chance to be the number one QB. And you blow it against a Miami Dolphins team with a quarterback that could barely see the day of the game. No joke. When there are reports out there that Tua said that when he woke up he could barely see. I guess he had something wrong with his eyes, so because of that he had to wear a visor throughout the game. He had his best game of the season with 4 touchdowns with that visor on. If I'm Mike McDaniel, I'm telling him, look, Tua, you're wearing that fucking visor for the rest of the season. I mean, look at how well you did. And so, yeah, we have an interesting matchup where the Dolphins are slowly but surely starting to get back on track here. Unfortunately, they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, who have been bad for most of the first half of the season, but I keep telling you, this is how the Ravens usually start off with. They usually start off very terribly, they usually start off very horribly, and then as the season goes along, they find their mojo again. And this was their first game where last week against the Bears was their first game there. You really got to see the original one and only Baltimore Ravens, even without Lamar Jackson there. Now they're saying the belief is that Lamar Jackson is going to play on Thursday night. I think they have officially confirmed it, but if they haven't, he's going to play on Thursday night, especially after the debacle last week where they made it seem like, oh, he might play on Sunday against the Bears. He had a full practice on Friday, and then literally the next day the Ravens had to go on and just like, yeah, we made a mistake. We did not mean to have him play on a full practice. We did not mean to have him on a full practice overall, and they made Tyler Huntley the starter. Everyone was just going like, sure you didn't, John Harbaugh. Sure you didn't, Ravens, but hey, Tyler Huntley and the Ravens actually look like the Ravens on Sunday against the Chicago Bears. It's a game that I thought the Bears started off looking pretty good, and then after that, I don't know what the hell happened to them because they just kind of, after the first quarter, they just kind of just let the Ravens back into the game. It's just like they literally could have just had a red carpet and had the Derrick Henry just run down there, and everyone and the Bears would have all just been like, here you go, my lord. Like, bottom line, the Bears didn't do much in that game. That's what I'm trying to say. But this is a matchup that is intriguing for a couple of reasons. 1, the return of Lamar Jackson. 2, the return of a Tua Tagovailoa who's back on the rise. And 3, this is actually a game that comes 4 years after the last time these two teams played. And, the Dolphins were 1-7 in that game. And that started the slow comeback of the second half of the season for them on that Thursday night where they shocked everybody by beating the Baltimore Ravens there. I don't think you're going to have that type of magic around this time because you're getting Lamar Jackson back. And while the Ravens haven't looked as good with Lamar Jackson in the lineup in the games that they had, I mean, having Lamar Jackson in there is extremely important to this Ravens team in general. And yeah, it should be a game where the Ravens should have no trouble beating the Dolphins in this one here. So yeah, as much as I like to see the Dolphins get back on track after a rough start to the season, this one's probably not going to do any favors for them. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Ravens to win this one to go to 3-5, and the Dolphins to drop to 2-6. Should be a close one overall, but not going to be another winner for Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins this week. That's for certain. Next up, you've got the Chicago Bears heading out to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Bengals. You lost to the Jets. You lost to the Jets, and you lost in spectacular fashion. I mean, as I said before, The Jets-Bengals game was the most competitive game the entire weekend. And that was the game that didn't look like it at first. I mean, with 8 minutes to go, the Bengals were up 38-24. The Jets looked like they had no life to them whatsoever. But then I guess the spirit of Nick Mangold got to the New York Jets because, of course, the story is that he passed away He passed away at the age of 40 Saturday night, and everyone was revealing that story on Sunday morning. So maybe his spirit was there because, yeah, the Jets, who have looked pretty terrible all year long, the worst team in football, somehow, some way, found a way to win that game. I mean, talk about a colossal misfire on so many levels for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's honestly a game that I thought there was no way the Jets were going to win this one here, especially when they went for the 2-point conversion. I thought to myself, I mean, okay, the analytics play, I know everyone wants to use analytics and all that, but more times than not, that does not work overall. And sure enough, when it announced to me, the Jets actually pulled it off, and that extra point was the difference maker in that game. I mean, the Bengals looked pretty good for the most part of that game until the final 8 minutes. It's just and it just flabbergasts me because it's a former Steelers quarterback, Justin Fields, that does the job for the Jets, and it just frustrates me so more that the Steelers couldn't finish the job, but the Jets could. A winless team was able to finish the job, but they're going to be taking on the Bears. We talked about what happened with them against the Ravens. They pretty much did what you expected them to do. First quarter, they looked pretty good, and then cratered off the face of the earth for the rest of the game. But yeah, this is a very tough one to pick out in general, especially considering that Joe Flacco may or may not play in this game because he had a shoulder injury, and he actually left the game early against the Jets before coming back for the final drive. So I would say that he would play because I think they'd rather trust a Flacco with a shoulder injury than Jake Browning. I mean, we have that proven time and time again that Jake Browning is not the same Jake Browning that he was, 2 years ago when they were going on that miracle run when Joe Burrow went out. But I digress. I think the Bengals will win this one. I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be kind of an ugly game overall. Bears could possibly win it, but I really don't know. Granted, the Bengals defense is nowhere near as tough as the Ravens defense is, but I don't know. I'm just going with the idea that the Cincinnati Bengals will have Joe Flacco there. They'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Bengals the win in this one. I'm having the Bengals going to 4-5, the Bears dropping to 4-4. Following that, we've got the Detroit Lions hosting the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions are coming off that bye week they had after beating Tampa Bay on Monday night a couple weeks ago. And you got the Minnesota Vikings, who on Thursday night, they look pretty bad. I mean, really, really bad. Carson Wentz clearly is not the answer that Minnesota was hoping for. And, it just goes to show you that, hey, Sam Darnold and also, who else? Sam Darnold and, who was the... Yeah, Sam Darnold. I mean, last year. I mean, Carson Wentz is no Sam Darnold. Let's just say that. But Carson Wentz is out with the shoulder injury. He'll likely be out a couple of weeks. So that leads to the ultimate question on whether or not J.J. McCarthy will play this week. Will he be the starting quarterback against the Minnesota Vikings? The indication is that yes, he will, but we haven't officially been given confirmation of that right now. So don't quote me on that. But you're going into the Detroit Lions at home. The Lions have been pretty solid ever since for the most part this season. So I really wouldn't put it past them if they found a way to win this one here. I think it'll be a very close game between two teams here, but. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, the big question about him is whether or not he is the guy for the future. And I think that they started the first week he looked promising, but then again, it was against the Chicago Bears team where they actually had the lead, and then the Vikings came back and dominated. But ever since then, it's been so much of a mixed bag for this football team overall. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Lions the win in this one. I'll have them go to 6-2, and the Vikings dropping to 3-5. Next up, you've got the Green Bay Packers taking on the Carolina Panthers, and that is going to be at Lambeau Field. Okay, I didn't know if it was going to be in Carolina or Green Bay, but As I mentioned, the Green Bay Packers coming off of that impressive win over the Steelers, and you got the Carolina Panthers coming off of that devastating loss to Buffalo. And too soon to tell. And it's too soon to tell which Carolina Panthers team is going to show up this weekend. Will it be Bryce Young back? Let me see what his status is for this week. Let's see. As of right now, they're still considering him day to day. So more than likely, it's going to be Andy Dalton under center once again. Upchuck the quarterback, but and we saw how that worked out against a team like Buffalo. So clearly, it's going to be the same thing against Green Bay, especially considering that you're going away from Carolina. But this is a game that if Bryce Young was in there, I would probably give the Panthers maybe more of a chance overall, but I don't think it's going to be the case here. I think the Packers are one of the best football teams in football right now. They're getting their mojo back at the right time, and like I said, they have a chance to possibly go 9-1-1 before Thanksgiving, and this will be a step in that right direction here. So I'm going to take the Packers to win this one. They go to 6-1-1, and the Carolina Panthers to drop to 4-5. Following that, you got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Tennessee, once again, man, just cannot get anything going here. Tennessee's just waiting for the season to end so they can actually look for a better head coach. And hopefully one of these guys that are coming out of college football right now, I've been hearing all these different reports maybe that somebody from college football might come over to the Tennessee Titans. I think I saw somebody say James Franklin, Brian Kelly, which I'm sure that's going to work out well. College football coach going into the NFL. I don't think it's going to work out there, but anyway, they're taking on the Chargers, and Chargers have been very kind of interesting overall. They're not as good as they started off the season as, but they're getting their mojo back. I mean, they beat the Vikings pretty convincingly on Thursday night last week, and this week should not be a hard battle for them this week to go into Tennessee, to go against a team that is having a ton of problems, not just with the coaching, but just in general of getting wins and sticking on to having these wins here. I mean, if the Chargers want to beat the Chiefs and keep them from getting past them, as well as the Broncos as well. We'll get to the Broncos in a little bit here, but yeah, you got to keep winning these games. You got to keep winning them. You got to keep steering away from the Kansas City Chiefs as much as possible. So yeah, I think the Chargers are game and motivated for that. So I'm going to take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this one. They'll beat the Chargers. They'll go to 6-3, and the Tennessee Titans will drop to 1-8. Oh, the Titans wish they had 7 wins right now, but they are not the Colts. But I digress. Next up, it's a Super Bowl 51 rematch. I'm sorry, I got my numbers screwed up here. Super Bowl 51 rematch between the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots. And needless to say, one of these two teams will not be anywhere close to a Super Bowl, and that's, of course, the Atlanta Falcons, because they have no idea how to use their weapons in general here. Of course, we talked about how they got their asses handed to them by the Miami Dolphins, but we also talked about the New England Patriots and how they did pretty well despite getting sacked 5 times by Myles Garrett for Drake May. I mean, it was another great day for the New England Patriots, and this is one where that magic should still continue. I mean, New England is doing a good job of continuing to stay on track here, getting past the Buffalo Bills, and possibly getting one step closer to getting back into the thick of the AFC East Division title. So yeah, I think it's going to be another win here for the New England Patriots to go to 7-2, and then the Falcons dropping to 3-5. And then following that, we have a matchup that 35 years ago was for the NFC Championship, and boy, how the times have changed for both of these teams. We've got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the New York Football Giants. The Giants, this season couldn't have gotten any worse for you, couldn't it? I mean, it's bad enough that this team is already without Malik Neighbors, but the universe really had to get rid of Cam Skattebo. How long until Jackson Dart gets it? Because we know he's going to get it next. I mean, at this point, the Giants' season is lost. They went from a team that 10 days ago I was saying, are the Giants back? But the universe said, nope. No, not at all. It's bad enough to have a terrible loss to the Broncos when you had a 19-0 lead at the start of the fourth quarter, only to lose it 33-30 because the Broncos scored 33 points in that fourth quarter alone. But then to go to Philadelphia and then just get your asses handed to you, and just keep losing players one by one. At this point, Jackson Dart's just going to be thrown to random fans who have to become in as wide receivers because all the big offensive line, all the offensive playmakers keep getting injured. Yeah, and more than likely, Brian Daboll's going to get fired before the season is over because the season's pretty much done at this point. They're going to be taking on the 49ers, who really got their asses handed to them by the Texans of all teams. The Texans! I mean, the Texans held the ball for 40 minutes in that game. They kept Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey off the field. And when you do that, the 49ers ain't going to really do a whole lot in general. No, but I'm sorry, it wasn't Brock Purdy. It was Mac Jones who was playing in that game. Just goes to show you that the 49ers they're not as good as that record makes it out to be. And yet, they still find ways to win. We've seen it a couple times early in the season, and we're probably going to see it again this week when they take on the Giants. Because I just think the Giants just don't have any life left in the tank, honestly. So yeah, I think it's going to be San Francisco that gets the win in this one. San Francisco moves up to 6-3. Giants dropping to 2-7. And Giants will be joining a lot of other teams very soon and hoping that the season will be over sooner rather than later. Speaking of teams that I hope the season will end sooner rather than later, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who coming off of yet another loss, get to host another pretty good team this week in the Indianapolis Colts. The Steelers. The friggin' Steelers, man. I'm just at the point now where I'm just ready for... I'm with the Tennessee Titans. I want the season to be over because there is no hope left in this team after the abysmal way the second half of that game against the Packers went. I mean, the Steelers had a lead in that game. It was 16-7, and yet they lost 35-25. Because of those explosive plays. The defense is terrible. The offense didn't do shit. Aaron Rodgers was such a coward in that game. And I've had a couple of days to kind of try to figure out, why do I keep doing this? Because as you saw on my Sunday Night NFL rewatch, I melted down pretty badly. I mean, you didn't hear me going into the bathroom with a pillow and screaming into it like that's frustration building up because I've seen this happen way too many times with this team, and this is the worst it's ever been. And the worst part about it is they're not waiting until December to start collapsing, because I'm telling you right now, this team's not going to win another game probably until mid-December. I mean, look at the schedule they have here. Indianapolis, at the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday night, which is the last time they played on Sunday Night Football. That was a cluster that should have ended with a Steelers victory, except Justin Herbert threw one lucky pass down the field for a touchdown, and that pretty much ended any chance for the Steelers in that one. You got Cincinnati, who is probably wants to sweep this team with Joe Flacco once again. Then you got to go to Chicago, where you haven't won in 30 fucking years. And then you got the Buffalo Bills coming to town, which, yeah, the Buffalo Bills are going to take it easy for you. And then they got to go to Baltimore with Lamar Jackson back in the swing of things. There is literally a possibility that this team could be 4-9 when that Monday Night Football game against the Miami Dolphins happens. There is nothing left in this team right now. Yeah, the offense, it's like we can't have a consistent team all across the board. Like the last couple of years, the defense has been keeping this team together. But then this year, we finally get an offense that's actually putting it all together, and now the defense is completely falling off of their own ass. And yeah, the Kyle Duggar trade helps them, but it basically is the equivalent of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I mean, that's how bad this team is right now. And the problem is, nobody in the Steelers facility will admit that this is a lost season. Like, there's no way this team is going to make it to the playoffs this year. There's no way this team's going to have a winning record this season. And I'm telling you, it's going to happen before that Miami game. They'll be 4-9 by the time that game kicks off in mid-December. Book it. If I was a real gambling man and I had millions of dollars, I would bet $1 million that this team will be 4-9 by mid-December. But I'm not a gambling man. But I did say it at Holiday Inn once, but that's beside the point. But yeah, the matchup here, bottom line, this is like a Christmas present for the Colts because, they're going to have they have the best running back in football right now in Jonathan Taylor. They have a good rookie tight end in Tyler Warren, and as we saw with Tucker Kraft, tight ends when they play the Steelers all of a sudden turn into Rob Gronkowski because the Steelers defense can't stop them because the Steelers defense has no idea what the hell they're doing here. But yeah, it's going to be a bad game for the Steelers. It's going to be a great game for the Colts. So yeah, I'm picking the Colts to win this one here. I'm done giving the Steelers any opportunity to win here because the schedule is just such a mess here, and all I can think of is that the Ravens and the Bengals and even the Browns are going to be sitting on hammocks with popcorn and beer and just looking at the Steelers completely falling off their ass and laughing because they know that one of them is going to win the division. They know the Steelers are going to give it up, and hey, like I said, they're not waiting until December to collapse. They're already doing it in week fucking 9. I mean, I have no hope for this team whatsoever. They're gonna lose these next 6 games. You watch. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give the Steelers a 4-4 record here, and the Colts will jump up to 8-1. Colts should still hang on to the number 1 spot in the AFC, and really, this one will not be fun for anybody in Pittsburgh, but it'll be a lot of fun for Colts fans and apparently the rest of the NFL because we all know that the rest of the NFL likes it when the Steelers suffer. And really, I could have gone on more with that, but I think you had enough of my Steeler ramblings for a little bit here. But let's get back to some other games here. Let's go to the late afternoon window where we have the Houston Texans hosting the Denver Broncos. Now the Texans, they're an intriguing team. I'll give them that because the Texans go into a game like the week ago against the San Francisco 49ers and hold on to the ball for 40 minutes, not giving the 49ers any opportunity to do anything. And we touched on that already, but we've got the Denver Broncos, who I told you they were the Cowboys' kryptonite. I mean, the Cowboys had no chance against the Denver Broncos. Once they got going, the Broncos were unstoppable in that game, and now they're sitting comfortably at 6-2. They're right up there with the Chargers at 5-3, and the possibilities are endless right now. They have a good chance to continue the streak overall. And they went into Houston 6 years ago and upset the Houston Texans when they were good, when they had Deshaun Watson, when they were in contention for the not only AFC South but also the division as a whole. And then of course we all know what happened. We all know what happened when we got to the AFC divisional round, but that's a whole other story altogether. So bottom line here, this is a game that could be very interesting in terms of how the Texans play this one out. I mean, they could try to have the same kind of idea of holding onto the ball and making sure that Bo Nix doesn't get the ball as much as Mac Jones did last week, but you're going up against one of the hottest defenses in football right now, one of the hottest teams in football right now. The Broncos are getting hot at the right time, and I feel like that's going to continue into this matchup here. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Denver Broncos the 7-2 record. They'll win this one against the Texans, who will drop to 3-5. And then next up, you've got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Two teams who are kind of in desperation mode at this point. I mean, the Jaguars, the last time we saw them, they got their asses handed to them by the Los Angeles Rams in London. And London is supposed to be, London's their second home. They usually win those games, but to get mollywopped like that, that's not a good sign for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But then again, it could be worse. You could be the Raiders, who put on one of the biggest shit shows the last time you took the field. And as far as I know, they have no plans on switching out Geno Smith for Kenny Pickett, which at this point, I don't know why you do that, but why you don't do that. But hey, there is some good news. They signed Tyler Lockett. You know, Tyler Lockett, who was on a 1-8 Tennessee Titans team, and now he's on a team that's 2-5, a 1-7 Tennessee Titans team, and now is on a 2-5 Raiders team, which you think that makes his life choices any better? And he's the one that said, I got to go to the Raiders. I trust Pete Carroll, which nobody should trust Pete Carroll right now because the Raiders are such a clustered mess. If there's ever a mood for a get-back game for the Jaguars, this is it. Like, if they lose this game, then there's something clearly wrong with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. So yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars go into this game and win this one. I think they will beat the Raiders. Jaguars go to 5-3. The Raiders drop to 2-6. Next up, we've got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the New Orleans Saints, and that game is going to be in LA. Just want to make sure I get that correct. But the Saints, yeah, they looked pretty bad against Tampa Bay last week, who beat them pretty convincingly. They're on a bye week this week. But hey, the good news is that they finally brought in Tyler Shough, after Spencer Rattler continued to fail to get them going overall here. And, I think a full game here will actually help the Saints out in general here. It'll be very interesting to see how they do with him under center for the full game overall. But you are going up against a Rams team that put up 35 points over Jacksonville in London. I mean, the Rams are getting back on track at the right time. They're proving their worth overall. They're playing lights out football. And they did it last week without Puka Nacua all that much. Devontae Adams had a big game the last time these guys played. Matthew Stafford threw for 5 touchdowns in London. I mean, this is a pretty good Rams team right now, and I feel like they could continue to have this pace going forward against an inferior opponent in the New Orleans Saints. Hard to believe that 7 years ago, these two were playing for an NFC Championship game, which the Saints should have won, but of course the refs wanted the Rams back in the Super Bowl for reasons that are beyond me. But hey, the Rams are good. The Rams actually are the better team this time around. I'll have them going to win this one, going up to 6-2, and the Saints dropping to 1-8. I think Tyler Shough should be better for the Saints. I don't think it's going to be enough to get the win, though. And then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have this week's Reviewing Network Live Sunday night NFL rewatch game. No, it's not the Sunday night football game. No, that game is nowhere near as important as Mahomes versus Allen Part 9. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs going to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. This right here is about as close to a Brady versus Manning reboot that we're going to get. I mean, when these two get together, it's explosive football all across the board. Now, granted, the last time these two teams met in the AFC Championship game, Patrick Mahomes did much more of the work than Josh Allen did, and the Buffalo Bills struggled mightily in that game. That was probably their best chance to get back to the AFC Championship game. But hey, they're good in the regular season when it comes to playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's great and all. But we need you to play better in the playoffs, because every time the Chiefs and the Bills play in the postseason, it's always Patrick Mahomes that gets the upper hand. So Josh Allen this is his Moby Dick. He has to take down the champ in the postseason. In the regular season, he can do it just fine, and especially now that they're going to be at home for this game here like they were last year. No question this is going to be a matchup that the Bills should easily win. It'll be a close matchup overall, but home field advantage, the last matchup between these two teams in Buffalo, in the stadium that they're currently in, Highmark Stadium. Okay, maybe, but then again, maybe they'll get a postseason game here. But this will be the last game they play in Highmark Stadium before they move into the new stadium next year with this matchup here. It should be an intriguing matchup overall. It should be a fun matchup between two very good teams. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this one for the home field advantage. I think they have the upper hand in this one here. They know how to beat Patrick Mahomes, and now they got to show it not just here, but also when they meet again in January for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to go to 6-2 and the Chiefs to drop to 5-4. Which brings us to the Sunday Night Football matchup, and that is the Seattle Seahawks going out to Washington to take on the Commanders. And boy, how the mighty have fallen for the Washington Commanders. This is this magical start of the season that started off for them with Jaden Daniels. And, everyone was thinking this was going to be the future of the Commanders, and now it's basically turning into 2013 RG3 right now because Jaden Daniels isn't on the field. I mean, we saw how badly they played last night to the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. A lot of people did. I didn't. I did because I knew the Chiefs were going to find a way to win this one. And sure enough, they beat them pretty convincingly. I mean, Washington did their best in the first half, but that's what the Chiefs expect you to do. They'll let you try to beat them in the first half, and then when the second half comes around, everyone's just like, okay, Travis, Pat, do your thing. And sure enough, they did their thing. They mollywopped the Commanders in the second half. And the Commanders had no hope whatsoever after that. But they're going to be taking on the Seattle Seahawks, who, last time we saw them on Monday night, they did pretty good against the Texans, even though they almost let that game slip away from them in the final minutes. But nevertheless, they win. They're playing pretty good football right now. They are playing pretty convincing football right now, and they're right up there with the Saints for the top spot in the division right now. I mean, it's a close matchup between those two teams. And, yeah, this should be a matchup that the Seahawks should easily win. I mean, there's no question about it. No Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin had to leave the game yesterday against the Chiefs, so he's probably not going to play in this one here. And the Commanders just aren't the same when Jaden Daniels isn't on that field, and that's going to really hurt them until he gets back on that field. So the Seahawks should easily win this one. I think they should go to 6-2. Commanders should drop to 3-6. And then last but not least, we have the Arizona Cardinals coming off of their bye week, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys went to their kryptonite in the Denver Broncos. As I said, the Cardinals were on their bye week. And, I said the Broncos were their kryptonite, but they also have a second kryptonite, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. No joke. The Cardinals beat the Cowboys pretty convincingly every couple of years. I mean, this is a team that somehow finds a way to beat the Cowboys no matter what. Even when this Cardinals team is one of the worst teams in football possible, they still find ways to lose to this team. I mean, think back to the last time these two teams played. I mean, 2023, it's week 3. They're at State Farm Stadium, and the Cowboys just can't beat this team. This is the Cardinals team that went 4-12. This was one of their 4 wins they had that year, and that's amazing to think about for this Cardinals team. I mean, they may not be great, but they are as game as anybody could ask them to. I mean, they know how to play these games against these teams. They beat them in 2021. They beat them in 2020. They know how to beat this team and not even make it a close thing at all. Their last loss to the Cowboys was 2017. That's 8 years, but I mean, they've had better. I mean, granted, yes, they've had better success than the Cowboys have had with the Broncos, but the Cardinals are just as tough of a team for the Cowboys to face in general. The Cowboys' offense overall has been the strongest part of this team, but even last week against the Broncos, that was not enough to get them over the hump. So this could be a very interesting matchup on a number of different levels, especially considering that this one is going to be in Dallas. So, I mean, most people are going to pick the Cowboys to win this one here, but I'm going to go with the records right here. I'm going to go with the team that has been mopping the floor with them. I'm going to go with the team that's done a good job of mopping the floor with them. I'm going to say the Cardinals win this one. I think it'll be a closer match. I think it'll be a close matchup, but I think Arizona somehow finds a way to get the job done. They don't collapse a big lead, and they find a way to win this one easily. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Cardinals to win this one to go to 3-5, and the Cowboys to drop to 3-5-1. So, just to recap my predictions for this week, I have the Ravens over the Dolphins, the Bengals over the Bears, the Lions over the Vikings, the Packers over the Panthers, the Chargers over the Titans, the Patriots over the Falcons, the 49ers over the Giants, the Colts over the Steelers, the Broncos over the Texans, the Jaguars over the Raiders, the Rams over the Saints, the Bills over the Chiefs, the Seahawks over the Commanders, and the Cardinals over the Cowboys. So let's see how many of these I get wrong, because it's going to probably be a sizable amount considering how my first half of the season went. But maybe this week's 8 out of 13 may be a sign that things are going to get better from here. Or maybe not. But with all that said, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the NFL Network. If you want to see some of my other predictions from the past, check out the video here. Check out the playlist below. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification button. And the next time you hear from me on this will be for the Reviewing Network Live Sunday Night NFL rewatch between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we'll be back here next Tuesday with a recap of all the trade deadline decisions, as well as my power rankings and predictions for week number 10. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.
The following has been a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports.